comment on the earlier comment that Paul had about maybe looking at manufacturers, businesses that are on or along or near our tier 1 corridors. And I would almost go the opposite of that, because the tier 1 corridors, one of the largest reasons in the tier 1 corridors because everybody uses these corridors. They're through routes, they're interstates, they're major compactways, there's traffic on them. And they may have their own problems in certain places, but what about clusters that are off of that tier 1 system that are not well served? And so I would almost go down to the opposite and look at the tier 3 corridors and what they're serving to see if there's a need for access type improvements from some of those industries that get closer to that issue of first mile, last mile that everybody keeps bringing up and we don't know what to do about it.
Yes, yes. Thank you. That's great.
Do you go out and talk to the major carriers or a significant number of the motor carriers directly and get their input?
Yes. So we went to the manufacturers first, and when they said they contracted out to carriers, we got those contacts, and then we went to those carriers specifically. Yeah. So all of their information is included in the report as well.
Okay. Just a couple of things that relate to this issue of sampling, I think. I mean, for Bill's very good point, that we have to bring together the cluster and the corridor. And we got it because everybody's in a cluster and everybody's in a corridor. So if we cross-tab our results, if we plan it for cross-tabbing, we can do that. Maybe that's obvious. And then, the other thing I was saying is just that this quantity of folks. One of the things that all these interviews are really good for is survey design. So if we however many people we interview, if we ask, if our structured interview format leads to a survey, we can, survey, 300 people or whatever, and then we can send out a survey with much higher probability of getting useful results and higher level of return.
We would have more quantity. We found in the interviews, and we could do that, and we may need to do that just because of the volume. We found that in the interviews, it really helps to be kind of there in person because then we can ask follow-up questions.
Sure. Of course.
And it's a richer conversation.
Yeah, of course, but it's just a way to get a different kind of data.
Yep.
We tie in with this, if I could, real quick, with a specific, and I'm going to use a community here that we're all familiar with because it ties to corridors and clusters. I'm going to talk about the city of Plymouth. I've been asked later this month, in fact, by a city council member and some others to come in and speak to a group on the very fact that Plymouth, as most of us know, has a pretty large manufacturing cluster. Specifically, one of the largest number of med tech firms in the metro area, certainly not the Medtronic and the St. Jude's, but a variety of small ones that are there. And they've got some corridors that go through there. But to get to corridors, 494, which they're a number of people I've talked to are thrilled that finally we got that third lane in on 494 up to 694. But they're concerned about getting from that last mile or first mile, if it's starting out from manufacturing, to the main corridors. And not even just today, I give them credit, they're looking down the road. So honestly, I'm struggling a little bit as to what my comments are going to be, and I'm going to try to do more of drag it out of them than to talk a lot. I'm wanting to hear their mindset, but I think as we, in my opinion, and again, I may be wrong here, but as we wrestle with, and I think Lee said it, some others have said it, it's not all corridors, not all clusters, but when you got a market like that, how do we help some of these? And Plymouth is just one of those. How do we help some of those prepare for the future?
Yeah.
This is Jana, if you have a moment.
Certainly. Comment, question, thought.
Hello?
Go ahead, Jana.
Can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. What's your thought?
Hello?
You must be breaking out. What is your thought? You said you wanted to share a thought.
Okay, great. Yes, I like the ideas of cross-tabbing corridors and clusters, but I would like to explore the issue of areas more, because I think relationships, and especially relationships over time, can really build a system of more continuous feedback and improvement. And I don't know if the areas align along county boundaries, because in many counties we do have economic development entities or some leadership that could play a role in rallying their communities, connecting with their engineers, getting out into their business and industrial parks. So I don't know how areas align, but Washington County certainly has Chris Eng, really strong group down there in Scott County, Dakota. Hennepin County seems to be well along. I know Ryan at Ramsey County would be very supportive. So I think there's some opportunities to work in areas, depending upon how well they align with counties.
Thank you. One piece I asked you at the break was to look at gaps, and we're having a conversation here now, just simply ideas for the study, which I think is fine, but I want to hone it in just a little bit on gaps. Sort of looking at the first mile, last mile to getting into the corridor. Again, Jenna's aspect on areas that movement into the first tier, I think, goes in, gets to that first mile, last mile piece. The whole conversation we've been having on the corridor cluster aspect, I think somebody said it's not a versus corridor versus clusters, but to look at them from different perspectives. Maybe this fits, maybe it doesn't. The relationship between trucks and other vehicles on the road. What I heard was the congestion caused by the commuters and the trucks. So
I like to refer to that as, actually, you use the word trucks, but commerce. I mean, let's face it, trucks and freight are commerce moving. Commerce versus commuters, and the fact that they basically play in the same sandbox.
okay, great, thanks. So commerce versus commuters. The other piece, two other pieces. One's the whole intermodal piece, and I don't know exactly. I'm out of my knowledge level, which starts very thin to begin with anyway. But what's kind of the intermodal question or gap or thing we need to be thinking about or talking about? Does that make sense?
With access to
okay.
to those facilities. We have two major ones in the metro area.
I think it's both important from a transportation access perspective, but also from a land use perspective, and that relates to the comprehensive plans that are going on now.
Okay. Excuse me, did you finish your thought? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying also, there's another piece with that intermodal piece is data as well, because you may not get the regular truck data that you need just by looking, say, like OD. A lot of it's dredge that's going to those particular facilities.
You said drainage?
No, dredge.
Oh, dredge, okay. Okay. Great, that because my question was on what type of data. There was someone else that had another, yes.
Well, just one point on that. I don't know if you get into that in any of the other fee studies or anything else, but there's a perspective that with additional intermodal expansion, you could get trucks off the road, but more would come by rail, but it has to do with where it goes and railroads involved, and it's kind of a development issue that would have some. And also could bring spur more distribution centers up here, and that would affect a lot of those significant areas where trucking traffic would go in that particular area. It's more a site-specific thing if some links got under additional development. I'd like to, up on the slide here, go scoping, they talk about manufacturers, but also distributors. I think the distributors and distribution centers, large ones, should be talked to individually that you can identify, like the Walmart one and Cato and certainly Amazon and the other distribution centers, Targets and those that are around here, because there's a lot of traffic that goes in and out of there, and I would think you could learn quite a bit about where it all goes and their issues they have coming and going from it. So I think distribution is part of it. Food distribution is huge, going out to serve all of our commerce and people around here. It's a huge part of what's parks on the road.
Okay, great. Other pieces that are either gaps or need to be considered in this study. Yes, go ahead.
I just need to flesh out that area relationship a little better.
Yes.
I think, Jan, correct me if I'm wrong, Jan, I think you were talking about something like economic areas, but in the metro, they're broken up into four, I would call them area managers. It's in the back. I want to do more. Two of them back there. But one of the key things out of the manufacturing study that I noticed was the relationship between the district and manufacturers, in that relationship. But in the metro area, there's more put on the area managers for them to build those relationships.
Those are largely county.
Yeah, I think they're
Counties, except they're split in Hennepin, right?
No, Hennepin is all one.
Is that, so they're all county level areas?
Pretty much county level.
And I'm sorry, I missed who, because it was district to manufacturers were in the more rural. Who is the focus here for the metro?
Well, it's most of the area managers, like I always speak.
Area managers?
Yes.
Yeah. Area managers are the ones who build the relationships,
Okay.
with the, counties and manufacturers, those who they serve within their area.
Okay, thanks. This ties in together. Don't worry, this is being recorded. These are not the formal notes. It's just to help kind of keep things moving along, and so I can go back and refer to things. Anything else to sort of add in as far as the gaps or other things to consider? Go ahead.
There's one, I'd love some help from others that may be more experts in the room on this one, and I'm hearing it quite a bit. From a standpoint of we're one state, but there really seems to be no question we're metro versus outstate. And where I'm going with this is a lot of concern outstate that funding and all the benefits go to the metro. And where I see it spilling over as a real challenge for us is in the legislature. And where you've got legislators that believe that so strongly that, and you got some folks that are running these committees in the outstate areas, from the outstate areas, that they'll do anything to fund outstate. They're like, forget it on moving commerce and commuters in the metro. We got to get past that, or I think we got a huge challenge. And I don't want to, certainly, I don't see former Senator Schmit here, but he's lived through some of this. I think, and unless I'm wrong, that's where I need some expertise, is you're in Brainerd, you're going to Chicago, or you're going to New York, you're going through the metro. And you're contributing to that bottleneck along with the fact that you're slowing up your own goods. I don't know if it's an educational issue, but until we can get past some of that, where even the outstate legislators will understand the movement of commerce is going to come through to a large extent. The metro, we're in this together. We're going to have that battle continue, and that's all I'll say. But there's others in this room that are much closer to that than I am.
Yeah, Bill, I think one of the things that's been outstanding about the manufacturer's study out in greater Minnesota. And you know, my hat's off to Donna and the district engineers, everybody who's done it. And even Mike, as he talks about concentrating on the qualitative, not the quantitative, is that politicians love stories. And we had two things going for us with the manufacturer study. One, we come up with real down-to-earth, feet-on-the-ground stories about how they're not operating at their best right now, but they can be helped. And two, going back to the golden rule, which I preach every week, we have never, ever had to have a trade-off in greater Minnesota and hurt somebody to help somebody else. It's always been improving the entire system as well as improving the individual businesses. We've never had an exception to that. And I hold that up as a gold standard for the Metro as well. As we get through the interviews and we list what we found out and where people can be helped, the area managers and the locals and the counties, everybody works together and improves the system. And that's what we sell to legislators and lawmakers and the governor and everybody else.
And Dave, if I could just one last point, that beautiful, honestly. I guess where I'm going with this is how do we continue to educate those? Because if I went over to the Capitol tomorrow and talked to 25 legislators, there are a number of them that would reiterate what I just said, meaning, you know, if they're outstate legislators, they're going to do what's good for the outstate, because I'm not sure we're giving them the full education. I'm as guilty of that as anybody. The bottleneck is the Metro. That's everybody's bottleneck.
Isn't that something that needs to be improved in?
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
Lisa.
Kind of build on that comment, you know, back in 2000, 2001, we did a lot of work when I worked at MnDOT with the Interregional Corridor program. And because of scarcity of funding, I think we moved away from that. But we're kind of a bridge county. We put up with the fact that people in Mankato complain about Scott County signals and all of that kind of thing. So we experience that. But part of what I think at Metro we do, especially on some of these radial corridors that go out, we kind of neglect things outside of the Beltway too, because there isn't enough money to do all the things that need to be done. And I think if there was some level of balance in the metro area, a little bit on some of those things, you might get greater Minnesota to see that things are being done that actually benefit them.
That's great. That's great.
They need, rural people need to be heard. I think that's a big thing. There's a perception that this is rural. So you have to hear that, and I think you
We're talked down to.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I think they do this, and it's really important, the conversation. And if there is a problem out there, even if it's not a well-traveled road, even if there's a lot of people on it, but if there's a lot of major freight that goes on it, and it's in major trouble, I mean, these district engineers are really important that they do keep in touch on the situation at each of their roads out there and bring that information to the table. And then the legislators need to know that. They need to know that, oh, somebody has identified this, since you are being, your traffic is being listened to. Now you need to listen to your freight coming out of your area goes through the Twin Cities, and you're all affected by it just as much, all of your constituents.
Yes, and we do have, I have a list of examples of greater Minnesota manufacturers talking about congestion in the metro area. And those are the stories that you guys can bring to the legislature as members of MnDOT. We have it. I mean, we have the data from these manufacturer studies.
Let me loop this conversation back to the study we're trying to focus on.
Sorry.
No, because I think it's, the energy in the room went up when we started talking about this. But what I'm looking for is that concrete thing that I can put on a flip chart to say, this is what you put in the study that will show this. So what is that? I'll throw it out to you, because it ain't coming off the top of my head right now.
Rural-urban linkages.
Well, there's something about how congestion in the metro affects the entire state, commerce flow in the entire state. And if through, so we're picking that information up in the greater Minnesota studies, but if we can also pick it up through our interviews with metro-based manufacturers, that'll just reinforce that.
Okay, so is it pulling some of that stuff from the other studies to
Yeah,
bring
we
in
have
work
it.
from that?
Yeah.
So to sort of play that, it is a metro study, but with these folks coming in,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term.
But you
Okay,
have it,
yes.
you have it from a certain perspective. You have the manufacturers. You can look at distribution centers and look at how they're impacted getting goods out
Yes.
to the rest of the facilities.
Fabulous.
That's the other side of the
Yes.
equation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Maybe you need some new nomenclature here. Maybe these things aren't metro studies always. Maybe they're Minnesota Global Commerce Transportation Studies. Something like that, better wordings than that. But maybe in some of these, if you have an angle for that, you identify it as that, or at least in the immediate subject, description.
Yeah.
But that's upfront, keep hitting it, that this is how it affects greater Minnesota.
Is it a description, or does it have, what are the implications for scoping the project? Or, I mean, would we scope the project differently because we're looking at it that way, or is it the way we're?
I'm just saying titles.
Just the title, branding
Sort
it,
of name
okay.
a little bit, or make sure you put something in there where it
Sure.
legitimately does have that.
For sure.
Up to kind of very hot.
Thank you. Well, we've got the branding expert right next to you, Bruce, so yeah.
Well, one question I wanted to throw out to everybody is, and this came up with our initial conversations on this study with District Engineer from Metro, Scott McBride. He said, well, your greater Minnesota studies were primarily 90% listening and 10%, oh, by the way, did you know about 511, did you know MnDOT doing this? He said, I think we really have to take a good hard look for the Metro. Should this be more 50-50 in that we have an obligation while we're out there doing these face-to-face interviews is to bring on a realities campaign to say, we need to do more communications to say, this are the realities. Our system is this is what our system's gonna be, it's not gonna change. He said, this is an opportunity to get that out there. He said, so I see it being more 50% listening and 50% educating. And he said, if you were to go in there and say, we'd like to get your feedback about everything except the interstates, because you can't do anything about those, what feedback you have? He said, that's, because the reality is when you go there, you need to say, this is what it is. So he said, so we're determining the scope. He said, I think we need expansion on the communications component of what MnDOT needs to educate.
I don't know, that is very attractive to a lot of insiders, but that's not what the manufacturing study's done in the past and what it's intending to do here. We need to do that 90% listening because we've heard so far things that we didn't know. We've learned from it. And we're not there to inform the public that we're the best thing since sliced bread. We're there to learn and improve the system. And so, we don't want to spend our time out there telling you that we're going to solve your problems tomorrow. We just let the guys
It's
do
just the
that.
opposite, it's just the opposite. He's saying, go out there and tell them, we're not gonna say, well, this is what it is.
Yeah.
So reality check, the formula.
Well, we start that on every interview, reality checking what we're doing and can we help you, but mostly it's listening. Are your trucks being blocked by auto traffic because they can't perform at the same level of traffic student? Corridor 65. Is there problems with access management for your business? Is there a problem with just getting your trucks through the city in one side and out the other because it takes too long and your drivers run out of time? What really are your concerns? Because that's why we're talking to people one-on-one. This is stuff we can't find out by quantitative survey. Diagnostics.
Somebody else, I think this could be a good conversation. I mean, is this well, I said show and tell and listen, or is it more sort of back to the listening? And here, there's another one somewhere around over here.
Lisa, too.
Yeah, up here, okay, go ahead, sir.
I don't think we can get everything that we want, but something that's been talked about is there's a Minnesota freight MFAT, it's Minnesota Freight Advisory. Now, there's been talk about possibly having one on a say a metro level because it's more operational and have a mechanism as we go out to bring others into a conversation that we can, they can be a sounding board for what's, going on in the metro, or again, they could be a good conduit, for information. So that's one thing to think about as we go through this.
Okay. Chair, did you have, so I thought there was another hand up. I know Lisa did. Go ahead, Lisa, then I'll.
One of the things that I liked about the Greater Minnesota study is that they did listen to and come up with a bunch of things that were kind of system decisions that we all make as agencies that build roads, but we think we know our clients, but we don't know them as well as we really should. And, we, as a county agency, when we do projects in those areas, we get good feedback through our public involvement process, but we don't have a systematic way. I think it would even be beneficial for county agencies. I can think of something that here in the metro area is like taboo acceleration lanes on highways that are not interstates, but man, our truck generators out on 169 have been begging for years that MnDOT think about that. And we're getting some progress with MnDOT and a project we're working on right now to look at that. But there's things like that I think we could all learn as professionals trying to put projects on the ground that we think are benefiting the community. So listening does help, I think.
Maybe one way to sort of connect the economic development and the transportation aspects of this might be a question like, how do you feel about your location? Are you happy in this location? Why are you here? Would you rather be someplace else? Why? I think if that might be a way of getting to, putting this in a place where we could make that, if we know why people are there, that's going to inform our economic development effort, and it will also inform our transportation plan.
Yes.
Lisa, you raised a good point that kind of validating the data, getting that confirmation. I think Mike raised that point in discussion with Paul about, CMSP and some of these other things. They use the data to drive the analysis, and you're really kind of doing the manufacturer's interviews or whatever type of interview. Really, it's kind of like the public involvement process to validate this is what the data tells us. I think the metro is very unique. In Greater Minnesota, it's driven by industries. There aren't a lot of distribution centers or other large shippers, so you really have to include those because they account for a significant portion of the trucks that are coming through, and so those issues are real. I think the other part of it is we've got a high concentration of businesses here. In Greater Minnesota, you can touch a significant portion of the businesses and make it statistically significant and have strong conclusions. Here you have to identify what are those thresholds. Is it the number of employees that you got to ratchet up? Is it, just when you start to see common themes and say, all right, we're locked in now, and this is, this validates what we thought or what we hear several times. There's a lot of different pieces to get in that. I think, getting back to land use for a minute, one of the issues in the metro is even just compatibility of land uses. Where freight facilities are located and how that fits in with neighborhoods and the connectivity to them and access to jobs. That is certainly a significant impact that in Greater Minnesota isn't so much a factor because it's 10 miles, it's roughly 10 minutes to their work. Metro, 10 miles could be a crapshoot in terms of what you see day in and day out.
Lisa.
One of the other things, I sit on TAC planning, and I have had to deal with a couple of issues that have come forward about, like right in the Midway area. And when we come up with light rail systems, we don't always think about the impacts that's going to have on the freight highway network in the Midway area. And there were a couple of decisions made with the light rail project that have hampered and impacted truck movement in the Midway area. And those kinds of things are significant, and I think we can learn by listening to the businesses about those issues.
So I just wanted to build on that, and I think maybe people talk about sort of the education and communication aspect of this, and how you talk to the legislature. In greater Minnesota, they know the importance of these manufacturing firms, and it's important for the district to listen to what they have to say in order to do that. In the metro area, there's not as much of a realization of the importance of these manufacturing firms and what they do. So it may be, from the viewpoint of talking to the legislators, it's more than transit, which is an important part of it. But that seems to be the discussion. It's transit versus roads, rural versus urban. And so I think sort of just the fact that MnDOT's doing it, there's got to be good reasons for it. It's going to be important that those conversations are going on with manufacturing firms. And that process may be helpful in having discussions with the metro legislators to sort of raise the importance of what those businesses have to say. So,
any other, yes, David?
I think a group or category of folks that would really be important to include in this are the third-party logistics companies.
Yeah, for sure.
And, I think specifically like companies like Murphy's Warehouse, Koch Logistics, because they're really the connective tissue that makes this work. I'm sort of amazed that the regional system works as well as it does. And it's because I think of those folks, very innovative, creative people who make those connections between, especially the small manufacturers and the small distributors that rely on those companies for their freight.
Yeah, we would definitely include that, for sure.
Other thoughts, other ideas on this? Yes?
One thing I think ultimately as we begin to try and pare some of this down and get our, head around it, is I think we've identified a number of things we would like to know and factors that affect the system, but MnDOT can't affect all of them. And so a really key question is, what's the information that MnDOT needs? And are we intentionally going to be soliciting information that we think others need, and our job is just to pass it along? Or are we going to really focus in on what is it that we're trying to find out?
Right. Do you have an answer to that, or
no?
We just
Damn, I thought we had it.
We did the Greater Minnesota interviews. We almost always included the EDCs and sometimes county officials, and that even in the metro, maybe we don't use EDCs to speak of. To have the counties as well as the areas involved with the interviews. Still want to keep small interview teams and keep it in them so we can get a lot of output from the folks. Have partners there at the table during the interviews, particularly at the county level, really be beneficial. Then they can carry the same message back to their commissioners and their managers that we're putting together.
To jump on that, Dave, I would say, that's why we had a first group going and doing the interviews, and that's why one of the reasons coming out of those interviews, it was those relationships and developing that relationship. Sometimes when I would walk into an interview, the person had no interest in talking to me in transportation. They wanted to talk to the EDC professional, the EDA professional. Sometimes it was vice versa. And so the more you can get, I agree, we need to keep the interviews team small, but the more we can get people in there to help make those connections and get to the people that business owner or that person really wants to talk to, I think we're better off in the long run.
Other thoughts? I'm waiting to see if Jan is going to come up with a thought. That seems to be her lead in on it.
Thank you. I really do think there's an opportunity to engage the economic development professionals. You've got to realize there were over 2,700 interviews done in 2015. And if you had some way of capturing that information, it could really enhance your broad database. And I think they also provide a great opportunity, as the gentleman just before me noted, in terms of relationships. They often will know key CEOs on a first-name basis. They'll get you access. They'll have email and contact information. I think that they can be a critical part of the system. And they can become advocates also with their county boards if that's part of what needs to happen.
Right, and that's part of the relationships.
Right.
So Donna and Lori, has that been discussed to, add in county and Met Council, and even city staff to these interview teams?
That's all.
We shied away from that in Greater Minnesota.
Sorry?
We shied away from that.
Well, no, in Greater Minnesota, we're including county engineers, and we're definitely working with local economic development organizations. So that has been working well in Greater Minnesota. In the metro area, yeah, definitely, it's sort of more like the who and how many and how big does it get.
Yeah.
Just because it's so big. But yes, all of those specific segments have been and will continue to be talked about as part of the mix. Yeah, and to your point too as well, Jana. Thanks.
Any other thoughts? I had one flash that I just want to throw out to folks. There's a ton here, but I've sort of lumped them into three sort of buckets. Let me throw out and see if it makes sense. First is just simply the data or information, which is by far and away the largest bucket, and goes back to the listening aspect. Also with that listening aspect, the last thing that was just sort of talked about was building those relationships between people, listening with that. And I got to go back to Lori's disappeared, but I think the gentleman over here talked earlier on about results.
Yeah.
And those results being a catalyst to say, this works.
Yes.
Thank you. And I think that's where we can maybe take it in to that show and tell. The show and tell comes in after the fact, or comes in on the back end, for lack of a better term, after this, which is showing, using the relationships with the data and information to end up showing the results that it's working, or I'm going to be careful with this phrase, but that, we are here to help you. We are partners in here. There's a value with that. With that, I'm seeing the clock say about 4:30.
Yeah.
Are we comfortable in closing down at this point in time? Any final questions? Let me go there.
Did we answer what you needed, Donna, on the slide there?
I got a lot of what else. I think we've made progress. I'm going to I would defer to Metro staff because it's their project. And I'm not putting you on the spot to answer now. But I think that this brought us forward, and I definitely have lots of things to follow up on. And I am so grateful to everybody who's been on the panel and contributed, you two in California, Jana, and to all of you guys for bringing questions and contributing. And we'll be in touch for sure.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you, folks.
Okay.
Very much for your time and everything.